Live from the Ison Studios in San Diego, California. It's a brand new Ison podcast covering all things from the sports front office to sports announcing, broadcasting, game operations, to statistical work, and many other avenues. This is Press Row. Hello, everybody. It's great to be back with you here on the Intergalactic Sports and Entertainment Network. Yours truly, Callan McClurg, is back with you from the Ison Studios here in San Diego. We are trying out, folks, a brand new podcast endeavor here on Ison whenever my time and schedule allows me to join you folks here from sunny San Diego, California. We're trying something different here, folks, called Press Row. This was actually an idea that myself and our good friend Will Polston had during our time together with both MI6 and Coast to Coast about trying to have a program with people in the sports industry that would talk about their careers or talk about sports broadcasting, announcing, game ops, and stat work and whatnot. And I've been kicking this idea around for the past 3 or 4 days and thought, let's see what we can do with this. Now, as of right now, folks, it'll be myself hosting this program. I did extend a invite to my great, awesome colleague, Chris Davis, because Chris and myself usually would go out after games. We would work and we would essentially have conversations about our industry with broadcasting, announcing, stat work, game operations, media deals, teams being sold. And we would have these conversations for hours on end at a local bar or after games were over. And I've been kicking this can down the road these past couple of days of like, I want that podcast itch to come back, but let's not talk about games and teams and big sports news. Let's turn the dial a little bit and dive into media coverage, into teams being sold, player contracts, and media talk more so about the announcing side, the sports media side of things, to maybe in a way perhaps maybe help educate the general public, maybe give pointers and educational advice out to those trying to get into this field. Again, this is my 15th year. Chris is in his 30th year being involved with sports media and sports broadcasting. So that's more of our goal here on Press Row is we're going to be talking mainly about stuff involving sports, but not necessarily wins and losses, overtime losses, championship game victories. But we're looking at things, though, from the media perspective, though, about television deals, radio contracts, a lot of great stuff from two great publications that we're going to be reading on this program, awfulannouncing.com and frontofficesports.com. These are two programs that I read every day when I get up in the morning about what's going on away from, as mentioned, the wins and losses. So we're going to be trying that out here. This is more of a test run program to kind of get this thing off the ground and running here this afternoon. And so we thank you all so much for being here and for joining us here on this Tuesday afternoon here. Now, again, folks, we're not really 100% sure right now where exactly or how long or whenabouts right now that this program will in fact be on air because both myself and Chris have very right now rigorous schedules here in March, going into April, going into parts of May, and for that matter, even over the summer as well at this point in time. But we are going to do, folks, our best to come here and join you folks for these programs. And again, really trying our best to talk more about sports media. Again, we're going to be trying our best to interview prospective guests that are involved with broadcasting, with announcing, sideline reporting, studio hosting, and many great things like that throughout the course of this program. So if you're following us here, folks, across Facebook, we're trying to get some of our social platforms back up and running as well here on Ison. I know I've been away, folks, for the past 7 or 8 months, maybe 9 months, if not longer. But again, folks, you can follow the Intergalactic Sports and Entertainment Network across your favorite platforms on Facebook, Twitter, and of course, also on Instagram. Again, we're streaming live here right now today on Facebook and also on YouTube and also on Twitter here today. But again, just once more, folks, and we're trying our best to talk more about from on-field, off-the-court stories mainly, but more talking about the sports media side of things, announcing, broadcasting, television deals, deals involving athletes with new deals, fitness, video games, law, markets, you name it. And all this, folks, again, is courtesy of two really great publications. I would really highly recommend that you subscribe to their newsletters. That is both Front Office Sports and awfulannouncing.com. These are the two main platforms that we will be reading content from, giving all the credit to them for kind of, in a way, inspiring this, because, again, I read these two platforms very much so over the course of my day when I'm not at work 9 times out of 10. So with that, folks, we will actually jump into the first story today, courtesy of Front Office Sports and Michael McCarthy. As we all folks know, with this upcoming baseball season right now, the pitch clock has become a new big hot talking point across Major League Baseball. And as of today, Michael McCarthy, writing for Front Office Sports, says that the new pitch clock rules have shaved about 24 minutes off of game times so far in the spring games, at least. Now, in perspective, folks, this is a games going from 301 or 3 hours and 1 minute, 7 minutes of game time, with time limits being between 15 and 20 seconds between pitches, really helping to speed up the course or the pace of play right now in Major League Baseball. And Michael McCarthy does write today that the results speak for themselves. Despite concerns from traditionalists over MLB's new pitch clock rules, the changes have shaved off at least 24 minutes off of spring training games. As of this past Sunday, spring games were running an average length of 2 hours and 37 minutes versus 3 hours and 1 minute just last year, which is a big improvement for a game that's known for its sometimes glacial pace of play. Minus commercials, the average half-hour entertainment TV show is only on TV for 21 to 22 minutes per day. Heading into the 2023 Major League Baseball regular season, baseball viewers should expect quicker and faster-paced games with more action and less downtime, with pitchers loitering around the mound or a batter stepping out of the box to adjust their equipment. So as a refresher, here is how, in fact, that the pitch clock rules will work. For the upcoming MLB season, there is 15 seconds between pitches if the bases are empty, and 20 if there are men on base. Pitchers must begin their motion to deliver the pitch before the time expires. If not, they are charged the automatic ball, and batters must be in the box and ready to go with at least 8 seconds left on the pitch clock. If not, they are charged with an automatic strike. All 30 clubs are set to begin the regular season on March 30th in just over roughly 2 weeks' time. So far, folks, now again, this is all a very small sample size, with this mainly being done as of right now in spring training, where we know right now spring games are being played. We'll probably talk about John Miller's comments about the Diamondbacks a bit later in the show. But at this rate, though, folks, is myself being a former baseball player, myself being a big baseball fan, and was probably one of the people who was against the pitch clock becoming a thing in Major League Baseball, because, as we have all heard, the old anecdote that baseball is not played with a clock. I probably would beg to differ now that so far, after watching a couple of Padre games on local television, we'll talk about that snafu in just a moment as well, with local TV and the RSNs right now with MLB and the other sports right now that it's affecting, is mainly the fact right now, folks, that at least after this past week, if not 2 weeks so far, the pitch clock seems to be helping. Now, again, I know a lot of you out there who may be baseball fans like myself would say, why do we have a pitch clock now? The game was fine. Who cares if you're losing demographics, though? I kind of think that this may have been the thing that perhaps maybe turns baseball, up a notch, maybe gets more people invested, because now you don't have those long lulls of, for example, guys calling time at the plate to readjust the gloves. Sadly, Nomar Garcia-Parra comes to mind. Or you have pitchers who are human rain delays out on the mound doing their best to slow the pace down. I really think that not just the pitch clock, folks, but I really think, though, that the changes that have been made for this MLB season are going to help this game significantly. Not because the pitch clock, but I also think about the number of times the pitcher can disengage the rubber with a guy on base. As a guy who used to play infield, I used to be one who used to dread a pitcher, on offense or defense of the side of the ball for my team. I used to dread 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 straight throwovers to first base, because I know you're trying to keep the running game under control, but also you're just, it's kind of like almost in a way kind of pick up the pace. But staying on the whole rule change ordeal, I also think, folks, the one that I think a lot of people agree with, and at least myself included, is the banning of the shift, because there is no telling right now, ladies and gentlemen, how many players we have seen lose their jobs or retire, a la Jay Bruce, who retired because they couldn't get jobs because they could not beat the shift. I think with this now in place, on top of the pitch clock and the bigger bases and the disengagement rules in place, I really believe that all of these rule changes are going to help this game. Because with how we have heard all the rumors and the talk of baseball dying, and baseball's not that big of a deal because, the NFL is, become king of the American sports fandom, and then the NBA is close and soccer is growing in popularity. This is, I think, a way, though, that the baseball front office is trying to not really reinvent the wheel, but they're trying their best to make it more appeasable, I would say, to those new folks joining in to watch baseball games. And I really, folks, have noticed a difference. Now, again, I know this is spring training, but at least so far, though, I really have noticed a really good improvement on a length of games right now with MLB. I know it's spring training, but I've even noticed it too, though, folks, at my colleges, mainly at Point Loma Nazarene University, where I do baseball games. Now, right now in place, they don't have the pitch clock established on the scoreboard or on the dugouts yet. That's coming in 2024, though. However, I have seen instances, though, this season already, through a couple of weeks of the year, though, where the umpire, either behind the pitcher's mound or behind the plate, will call time and point at their wrist and motion up to us in the press box. And then they will show the count, waving if it's a strike or a ball because of a violation. So far, I like that right now. And even college games have kind of felt a little bit quicker, though they really aren't fully enforcing the new rules in place yet, at least at the D2 level. I can't speak for D1 right now. I'm not able, Sally, with my schedule to do some D1 games this year. But certainly, though, the pitch clock, at least for right now, in my perspective, seems to be doing some wonders. Now, will that be a thing, though, folks, that carries over into the regular season? Let's hope so, because I know that commercial breaks are going to be a little bit longer, I think, maybe during regular season games as opposed to spring training. I know as well that the postseason, it's going to be 3 minutes worth of commercial breaks in between innings now when the postseason rolls around in September and into October, maybe parts of November. But at least right now, you've taken 24 minutes off of a baseball game in the spring. I kind of like where this is going right now. I will, though, say, though, folks, I think you would agree, though, too, if you're a baseball fan. I kind of do feel like, though, right now, and this is all for everyone to improve on right now, I really kind of think that 15 seconds might be a little too quick in between pitches with nobody on base. I would fully be on board for a full 20-second clock. Bases empty, bases, man on base, 2 men on base, bases loaded, because I think you run the risk, I think, of more and more pitchers perhaps starting to wear down a bit more with that very short 15-second interval being a thing with no one on base. I would think 20 seconds is perfect in between pitches as well, along with guys on base. Maybe you go up to 25 seconds with guys on base. So you're not running the risk of guys getting injured in April, May, or whatnot. And I think that as everyone adjusts to it, though, that more time will be spent, hopefully, maybe tweaking some stuff, though. I think I did see a photo. I think that it was either the Orioles or somebody had shifted somehow on Joey Gallo, and they had essentially done like another outfielder, I think, because with the rule in place with the shift right now is you have to have your infielders on the dirt. They cannot be on the grass whatsoever until the pitch is thrown, I believe, which I think is going to help improve offense. I think a lot of fans out there would agree, though, the lack of offense, the home run or strikeout mentality has really crushed the game more than maybe pace of play or stuff like that. But folks, I will say, though, if there is one thing before we move on to some viewer commentary here, we have one comment in the chat box we'll get to in a second. If there is one thing that I absolutely have enjoyed or love about these rule changes for the 2023 season, it is the simple sheer fact that now we have a balanced schedule, much like the NHL, and the NBA, and even Major League Soccer. Now, if you are a fan, for example, who wants to see the Padres play, but you live in the Midwest or East Coast and they're an American and you're a AL fan, now you get to see them play once every 2 years rather than once every six. And this was something I actually remember Don Orsillo and Mark Grant of Valley Sports San Diego discussing during last season when the Padres had a series in June with the Mets. And the Mets were going to be making their trip to Anaheim to play the Angels the following series. And Don and Mud spent a good, batter, I think, saying, how weird is it, that we as the San Diego Padres, basically have two other Southern California teams within an hour plus of us via the bus. But you know that you're going to drive by that ballpark in Anaheim to go to the other ballpark in Los Angeles to play the Dodgers. But in the back of your mind, you're only going to go and play at that particular ballpark in Anaheim once every 6 years. But now with this new schedule format, now you get Angels Padres every year. And that is something I was very adamant about for a long time, is that, here we have a American League franchise up Interstate 5. I know that their natural rival is the Dodgers, but why can't you make this work? Why does it have to be Padres Mariners? Why can't it be Padres Angels and then Dodgers Angels as like a little three-way, SoCal series? I remember many years where the Padres played the Angels their last 2 or 3 games of spring training in San Diego or in Anaheim or Palm Springs back in the before the Angels went to Tempe. But I think that's also the big caveat, though, is now you're going to have every team play each other. And I think that is the best thing that baseball could have done, because I think a lot of times fans in certain markets, I mainly think of like Boston and New York, though, who maybe have heard about the Padres, but they can't stay up until 9:40 Eastern to watch a game because it's so late in the evening on a Monday, Monday through Friday, because of work the next day. But now you're going to have that chance. If you are a Yankee fan, seeing the Padres coming and playing, for example, I believe in late May this year, or if you're a fan of the Blue Jays wanting to see Vlad Jr. play Fernando Tatis Jr., that's going to happen in August. So I really think it's going to help the fan bases out, because now you're going to be able to see teams who you would only see once every 6 years, but now you have them coming once every 2 years. I remember Best working an event for the Padres back in July of last year, and some of the front office reps said, yes, the plan in place right now is Boston or New York comes to San Diego every year. So this year, for example, it'll be the Red Sox coming here in mid-May. Next season, they will rotate, and the Padres will go play the Red Sox in Boston, and then they will play the Yankees at home here in San Diego, where this season they're going to be playing the Yankees out in the Bronx this season. One quick thought from my good man from all the way in London, James Scott of Across the Pond Sports says, loving the show so far. Again, James, thanks for being here, man. We're trying something new here on Intergalactic Sports and Entertainment. We are trying our best to kind of in a way go and talk about other things affecting sports, not just games on the court or on the field of play, but again, mainly about announcing, broadcasting, game operations, stats. And again, we're talking some big stories too, courtesy of awfulannouncing.com, and also from our friends over at Front Office Sports as well here today. With that in mind, though, folks, now the other big caveat here, of course, with the ongoing deliberations right now affecting Major League Baseball, and for that matter, affecting local television, as you folks probably know right now, is the woes right now plaguing Diamond Sports, Sinclair Broadcasting, and also Bally Sports in certain markets, including here in San Diego with Bally Sports San Diego, Bally Sports West, Bally Sports SoCal, whatnot. But per Yahoo Sports, input Jack Bader, who wrote this back in February, Jack writes, with the owner of the broadcast rights for 14 Major League Baseball teams reportedly on the verge of bankruptcy, MLB is now gearing up for some new responsibilities. League Commissioner Rob Manfred told reporters last Wednesday, back around Valentine's Day, that if Diamond Sports, the company that runs the nationwide array of Bally Sports networks, would miss its payments to clubs, those clubs will indeed terminate their agreements, at which point the league would look to produce and distribute those games by itself. Diamond Sports back last month, folks, did announce plans that it will miss a $140 million interest payment, triggering a 30-day window grace period to figure out a way forward. but it's been widely speculated that such a road will lead to bankruptcy, putting MLB in a position where many of its teams could lose one of their biggest sources of revenue. As the commissioner explained, the league's backup plan right now, the league would try to get the games aired on local cable like usual, while creating a new option for fans to stream local games, which has been forbidden under the usual RSN structure. The commissioner did put out a lengthy statement in regards to that. We won't read part of it, but I will say this part though from the commissioner. Quote, we would also be seeking flexibility on the digital side so that when you look at MLB.tv, you'd go in, you can buy your out-of-market package like you always have been able to, but you'd have the option to buy up into in-market games, which I would see as a huge improvement for baseball fans, close quote. When he was asked if he thinks that baseball would be able to replace 100% of the revenue that teams were due to receive, Manfred responded by simply telling Yahoo Sports, quote unquote, not in the short term. As of right now, the following local teams affected by the Bally Sports networks are the Diamondbacks, Braves, Reds, Guardians, Tigers, Royals, Angels, Marlins, Brewers, Twins, Padres, Cardinals, Rangers, and Rays. It was also reported by Sportico last Tuesday that 3 AT&T sports networks, which own the rights of the Rockies, Astros, and Pirates, also failed to make their payments in recent weeks, and that Commissioner Manfred did not address that on Wednesday. This issue is by no means only a MLB-only matter, as Bally also has rights to 16 NBA teams, 12 NHL teams, and 4 WNBA franchises as well. So what would be the future if Diamond Sports does fall through? Diamond Sports' origin dates back to 2019 when parent club Sinclair Broadcasting Group purchased a group of Fox Sports regional networks from Disney as a condition of the latter's purchase of Fox in 20th Century Fox. Its fall comes as the trend of cord cutting intensifies, an issue that MLB has been anticipating for years. Under the current structure of the deal right now, the vast majority of MLB teams are in agreements in which a regional cable channel will pay them tens of millions of dollars annually for the right to air most of their games locally. MLB, in turn, does not allow its MLB.tv customers to stream games if they're in the market of that said cable provider or cable channel. These channels are a major pillar of the cable industry, and the fact that most of them are on the verge of failure means that MLB will have to change the way it does business, something that Manfred did acknowledge in another statement also released on that Wednesday, back around Valentine's Day. But none of this, though, is a surprise to MLB, which hired RSN veteran Billy Chambers as their executive VP of local media to tackle this exact problem. Whichever direction the league goes, the short term is likely to be painful for many teams' balance sheets at this rate. You know, ladies and gentlemen, I will say this much, that this has always been a thing that my parents and I have talked about for a long time. Mainly due to the fact, though, of that RSNs right now are slowly kind of in a way decaying and dying a slow death because of what has gone on recently, mainly because of the cost of cutting the cable and going to mainly just streaming platforms in regards to Disney Plus, ESPN Plus, Hulu, Netflix, Amazon Prime, you name it. And right now, this is a very, not really tumultuous time right now, but it has been one, though, that I've been very closely monitoring because of what this might mean for the future for the RSN deals right now, but also how this may affect the revenue is one thing, but also how this might, of course, affect how we watch live local games now. If this becomes a thing where Bally Sports, for example, in San Diego's case or in SoCal's case, goes under, does this become a thing where a local station, like, for example, KGTV Channel 10 here in San Diego, our ABC affiliate, who right now the EW Scripps Group has plans in place to launch their own sports network, does that become a fall-through plan for the San Diego market? Does your View Channel 4 come back to the fray after being away from the Padres for the past decade? Does KSWB Fox 5, who's been showing a lot of the local teams here, like, for example, indoor soccer, hockey, lacrosse, do they become the fruition or come to fruition to become the new outlet if, in fact, Bally does go down? So it's mainly a thing of concern. But I think, though, that it might, though, and this may be very far-fetched and stupid, folks, but if, in fact, the RSNs tank in these markets with Bally or even AT&T Sportsnet, and if baseball has to pick up the pieces and then do it this way through MLB.tv, where you would be able to purchase your own team package. The only saving grace I see coming out of this, if these RSNs tank and do in fact go bankrupt, is the fact that MLB can now take a page out of MLS's playbook with their Apple TV deal and finally get rid of the blackout rule. That has been the one thing that I think has been crushing sports fans who don't live in their home team's market. They have to pay maybe more out of their pocket to be able to watch their favorite team play, but they live in a different city or a different state. For example, here in San Diego for a long time, and for a long time, you cannot watch the Angels or Dodgers play on local TV here in San Diego because of the blackout rules and the contractual territorial obligational rights given to the Padres over the entire San Diego County area. But yet, though, because there's no competition, for example, with the NBA or the NHL here in San Diego, because our two closest clubs or the closest teams are in LA with the Clippers and Lakers, and of course the Ducks and the Kings, and even the Galaxy for that matter, for a bit on Spectrum Sportsnet, is that you don't have to worry about not being able to watch basketball, hockey, or soccer because there's no competition right now or no contractual obligation holding back these RSNs from showing these games on television, where you can watch the Ducks and Kings at will on Bally Sports West, Bally Sports SoCal, or what have you. But I do think that the main thing I want to see happen is I want to see these blackout rules go away, because I think so much, though, about my hometown, basically, San Diego, big military presence here. And think of all those, members of the armed forces who are in San Diego, who live here, who can't watch their team play because they don't live in that particular market. Yes, I know you can probably get around it by streaming it via your phone or your tablet or your computer. And also the fact that, cord cutting is one big thing, though, again, with, how cable bills have just exploded, you know, $100, $200, $300, especially if you're paying money for a Sunday ticket, for example, or the NFL Network or for Red Zone during the football season. But I do think, though, that despite what we have heard, though, it really seems to me, though, folks, that at this stage, that baseball at least has their bases covered, no pun intended, because at least, though, that they already have some backup plans. MLB.TV, I used it a little bit during the COVID baseball season. I bought the package for the year, and it was great. I was able to watch the Angels play or watch some other games that were going on that were on TV that caught my interest, and I wanted to catch and watch play. But I really think that the main thing I want to see happen, and maybe you agree, though, if you're a baseball fan, is you want to see these blackout rules go away, because maybe you can't afford to go to a game. You still want to watch a particular game be played, but you can't do so because of the contractual obligations being had right now in all these markets. But again, folks, give us your thoughts here. I think it's grim at this stage because of what we have seen go down right now with Bally and Diamond missing the payment, the 30-day grace period opening up. And also, folks, this also kind of came into my head too when this report first came out about Bally and Diamond and Sinclair having their issues with the finances. Why does it always seem like 9 times out of 10, it's either a cable company and for example, Diamond or Bally doing this, and they threaten to pull the station off the air right before a season happens. And in this case, now we're dealing with bankruptcy being a thing. We're again kind of stuck in the mud about what's actually going to happen if, in fact, that Bally goes down. Like, it always seems to be transpiring around the start of the baseball season or the football season, where either the national networks or even for this matter, the local networks seem to be they just seem to be having issues that have to be resolved right before the year begins. And if in fact, though, that Bally goes down by that 30-day grace period, I think we're really looking at some trouble here. But at least right now, that the only other small saving grace right now, in my opinion, is that baseball is working to make sure that they have all avenues covered with MLB.TV. I would even assume as well reaching out to local stations in the area. For example, maybe KCAL 9 up in Orange County. for the Angel games or KCOP Channel 13. Maybe here in San Diego, it becomes KUSI or KSWB or KGTV because of EW Scripps having perhaps some potential interest in getting their own sports network going on, maybe. But I don't know, though, folks. This will be a very interesting next couple of days and weeks, probably, to see what exactly is going to happen with these RSNs and these 17, 18, 19, or 17 baseball teams right now who are at this rate, kind of, they're in some hot water right now, not because of what's going on with it, but it hurts right now for the simple fact that now fans are kind of on edge because what's going to happen if, in fact, that there's no way that games can be shown on television if Bally is down, and of course fans will fork out more money to watch the games on MLB.TV or what have you. But I do think that there has to be an alternative because I don't think a lot of people, my parents included and myself, we have streaming platforms, but we still have cable because right now the Padre games are still being shown on Bally Sports San Diego via cable. So again, there's a lot of moving pieces here, folks, but hopefully something can be resolved in time for the season, whether that's baseball, being able to show the games on MLB.TV or something along those lines right now that can really hopefully give baseball fans, and not just baseball fans though, but even basketball fans and hockey fans for round one of the postseason when local TV still has rights though to the postseason, that hopefully that all this can hopefully wait a little bit. I know it can't though because of those 30 days are going by. But hopefully one can figure this out, though. And I'm mainly glad, though, right now that baseball at least has all their ducks in a row and they're trying their best to make sure that everything is going to be up to snuff when, if in fact, something does go wrong with Bally. And for that matter, AT&T Sportsnet, and for that matter, all the other streaming platforms, or all the other cable networks, I should say. Moving, folks, of course, to the ongoing other baseball saga right now. And for that matter, kind of just keeping things on the baseball side of things right now because of front office sports. But of course, everyone, we are still, though, very closely monitoring the ongoing issues right now with the Oakland Athletics right now and their potential move to Las Vegas, Nevada. And of course, folks, has been very well documented on MI6, on here for a bit, on Coast to Coast Entertainment, is that right now, I really think that this is going to be a Vegas or bust type of situation for the Oakland Athletics. And I even remember saying way back on Coast to Coast when I had time to do podcasts still, is at this rate is the fact that the A's right now are playing 3 spring games right now in Vegas in Summerlin just kind of, I think, begins to not really paint the picture that they're going to be in Vegas, but it does, I believe, begin to start the process that this club is on their way to Sin City. And per the reports written by Owen Pondexter about the A's playing their 3 spring games right now in Vegas, Owen of FOS does write that the Oakland Athletics are still in limbo, but Las Vegas is ready to welcome them for a permanent vacation. The team has played spring training games against the Reds in Las Vegas over the weekend, stirring more conversation that the city could one day be the A's full-time home. A's on-field manager Mark Kotze told FOS it's no secret that we've been pursuing paths in Oakland and Vegas. But regardless of that, we've been there before, and it's our AAA home. And I think it's a great thing to take in for fans, a weekend of baseball in Vegas, open and close quote. While right now, folks, that numerous details remain to be addressed before the team could sign off on a move to the Sin City, leaders in Vegas themselves are making their enthusiasm known. A contingent that includes Don Logan, the COO of the A's AAA affiliate, the Las Vegas Aviators, where the A's played these 3 games over the weekend. Logan tells ESPN sources that Las Vegas offers a dynamic that no other team has. We have over 45 million visitors annually in this market, and that's what we want. Heads in beds. My perspective, make the best deal you can in Vegas and start to turn this community on. That sentiment was also echoed by former A's great Jason Giambi, who told ESPN, or who told sources they want it and the people are hungry for it here. Every night is sold out at the Golden Knights. Every night is a sellout for the Raiders. Not only are you drawing your own fans, but you're drawing everybody else too, open and close quote. Folks, if there's one person who could talk about this better than I can, it's definitely our man Isaiah Leung from MI6 and from Coast to Coast Entertainment, because Isaiah has kind of, much like myself with the Chargers in San Diego, we have somewhat seen and lived through these nightmares of teams battling the city government, voters, and stuff like that. And again, the Chargers issue here, folks, in perspective, went from when I was in first grade till they left in 2016 about the stadium here in San Diego. But folks, I don't know what to think here. And I really just think that sadly, this kind of begins that walk down the path that the Athletics are going to be in Vegas in a couple of years. So I really think that MLB wants the market. They want to expand eventually to maybe Montreal or Nashville or Portland or what have you. But this, I think, just begins the ripple effect of what this might mean. Now, much like San Diego sports fans, I feel bad for those of you in Oakland who have seen the Warriors go back to San Francisco and you've seen the Raiders go to Las Vegas. And you are clinging right now to your baseball franchise, who brought you so much great success in the 70s, 3 titles in 3 years, the World Series title in 89, but it's not been the same because of the Coliseum's condition, the ownership selling off Sean Murphy, Matt Olson, all of these young, promising kids who could have perhaps turned around the franchise because of slashing payroll. And I think Isaiah is right, though. We've had this conversation a lot, though, off air. And Isaiah said, even if the A's in his mind make the move to Vegas, what makes anybody out there even think for a second that they would even begin to start spending money because they're in a new market with a new stadium? But mainly right now, folks, is I believe the lease runs out for the Oakland Coliseum next season in 2024. You would probably have to somehow, some way, if you're Vegas in this case, you would have to somehow, some way strike a deal and begin work on a ballpark sometime soon. Unless, of course, you want a situation, I believe, where the Raiders, when they were playing in LA at the Coliseum, were literally flying in from Oakland into LA to play their games at the Coliseum because they didn't have practice facilities in Los Angeles at the time. That, I believe, becomes a thing that becomes very weird, because now you'd be talking about being, involved with Vegas, but would you be able to still, though, play your season temporarily, at least play your season at the AAA ballpark, work around their schedule? Or what else could you do? Because Cashman Field is no longer a baseball stadium. It's been converted now to a full-time soccer venue for the Las Vegas Lights of the USL ranks right now. So who really knows, though, folks? But I do know, though, and I have seen this. I end up going to a Golden Knights regular season game around Christmas time this season against the St. Louis Blues. And that was like my eye-opener, or like my eureka moment of like, these fans get it. Sellout crowd, great energy, great passion for the team and the sport. And I can only imagine how it is for the A's going to Vegas too, is that Vegas is now a sports market that wants in. This is a market, folks, that we have seen go from the NHL, go to the WNBA. They now have a championship under their belt with the Las Vegas Aces. Oh, by the way, they're owned by Mark Davis. Oh, by the way, they just signed Candace Parker over the offseason to a pretty big splash over the offseason. The Raiders, of course, have been great there. And now you're looking at potentially getting baseball. And maybe perhaps the NBA pretty soon at this new 20,000-seat venue being built called the Sphere. Now Vegas has Formula One racing coming into town. So all those years, all those long years, and all those pundits who said, you can't make sports work in Vegas because of the gambling aspect. No one's going to come to these games. What do you think in doing so? The NHL proved you wrong. The NFL proved you wrong. The NBA, WNBA proved you wrong. And now baseball could probably prove you wrong as well, because I know that there's been that stigma. There was that stigma for a long, long time. You can't be having, teams playing in Vegas because they're going to be too distracted. They're going to gamble on their games or whatnot and stuff of that caliber and whatnot. But at the same time, for the Oakland Athletics in general, obviously you have to do what's right for your best interest, whether that is somehow, some way riding it out in Oakland with the Coliseum, maybe hopefully getting a deal done with the new city governor or the city mayor, I should say, not governor, but the new city, with the mayor and the city council. Or if it is in fact Vegas, I think you have to make the move for whatever you believe has the best interest of your organization in mind. Now, yes, folks, the A's are probably on their way to another, bad season, sadly, because of the move of Sean Murphy and the club really slashing back their payroll to $40 million, and like I said earlier, as somebody who had or who has been a part of who's been who's seen a franchise leave, and when the Chargers left, though, that was a really dark day here in San Diego. It came out of the blue at like 6 a.m. Via local radio and through a letter from the Spanos family. And I would just hate to see another market lose a franchise. Mainly from what I have seen here in San Diego when the Chargers left, and how this town in a very big way resents the NFL. They resent the Chargers franchise. They mock them when they lose every game. I think back to when the Sonics left for Oklahoma City and how fans couldn't stand David Stern or Adam Silver or Clay Bennett when they moved the Sonics to Oklahoma City because of Key Arena's condition. Anytime I see a franchise leave their market, a part of me dies. A part of me sympathizes with those fans who have lost something. And I remember telling Isaiah one night about this whole thing with the A's is I just think about those families that for generations took their kids to watch the Chargers play. For example, my dad going to watch the Chargers play when they were in the AFL at Balboa Stadium. He would tell me stories of him and his dad would go for 25 cents, and it would be another quarter to get a seat cushion because it was a all concrete seating bowl at Balboa Stadium, and them watching Lance Allworth and John Hadel play for the Chargers, and then winning that 63 AFL title over New England or Boston, 51-10, and how that team was a part of our family and his dad, my parents, and then a little bit with my brother and myself going to watch the Chargers. I think about the Padres, for example, with my mom and dad watching them play as a PCL team at Westgate Park and then at Qualcomm Stadium and now at Petco. And then I think about Oakland just in general, about the fact, though, that within the last 5 to 7 years, this is a market who has lost the NBA franchise, the Warriors, back to San Francisco, and then lost the Raiders again for like the third time in their franchise history going to Vegas. And now I think about the Oakland Athletics, who have been a club or a team who, had that run in the 70s. They had that run in the 80s when they won the Earthquake series over the Giants in 89, and how that club went from being like a gold standard franchise to now being a club who reminds me a lot of the 1990s Padres, who would slash away, or sell off higher prize players to slash payroll and save a quarter, nickel, dime, penny, or dollar here because, it's San Diego. Oh, it's Oakland, small market syndrome, as I usually call it with small market teams. And sadly, I just think that the A's playing these 3 games in Vegas in Summerlin sadly opens up a can of worms, and more than anything else, opens up a can of worms, but also becomes a side the A's want to have happen, because we've heard all the rumblings of Dave Cavall going to Vegas during the 2021 NHL season to go and see the Golden Knights play a game during the postseason, and how he would tweet that out, and how the fans of the A's would just rip him to shreds. I remember Isaiah saying one time there was a very vulgar, expletive chant directed towards his owner, directed towards the ownership box at the Coliseum, because Caval had been at this game in Vegas and was lolling at it and like drooling from his face about how it was with the Golden Knights and their game entertainment and stuff like that. Like, wow, this is incredible. That's just something that you don't want to have happen, let alone you don't want it to be a full-blown distraction. And it's the last thing the A's need because of the disparities with their payroll, the issues of John Fisher not spending money. It's going to be, probably sadly down again this season, because stuff like this, folks, creates stuff that you don't need to have happen. You don't need to be having this sort of story coming up in the middle of the season or before the year even begins and begin to stir the pot when it becomes an issue that could begin to derail the team and it becomes a distraction. You just don't want it to be a distraction. But I also, folks, just don't know, though, what the best move is, but it has to be the best move has to be for what the A's believe is in their best interest. And right now, I think we all would probably agree right now that though it may not work out, you've got to try Vegas. You have to at least experiment with it, see if you can get it to work or whatnot. But also at the same time, though, I really hope they can get something done in Oakland. I really do, because I would hate to see a club who has made that town their home for since the 60s, I believe, since 67, I believe, since they've been there in Oakland. But mainly, again, just thinking about that fan base who has put in so much time, effort, and money to support right now the lowest payroll ranked team in Major League Baseball because they love the game and they love the team. And it's just very unfortunate. It just sucks to see this come to fruition, because now you have somewhat, in a way, created or opened up Pandora's box, because now you may have that lingering issue of this being, a distraction. Something could go down in the middle of the season, maybe at the end of the year when the season's over, something could be coming out, though. But I also think that the main thing that derailed the Athletics, sadly, is Isaiah had reported on a story saying that they had swung and missed on a $12 million grant from the federal government, I believe, that would have given huge, or would have been a giant boost of revenue or money, basically, to help fund their project for the Howard Terminal 35,000 seat stadium that they're trying to build. And I really think that is that could be something that I believe does not help pan things out in regards to them missing this potential grant or loan payment, whatever it was. It was something from the federal government for infrastructure, I believe. And them not getting that is what I believe puts the project for Howard Terminal on the back burner right now at this stage, because I don't believe you're going to be able to get taxpayer funding. That's the biggest thing mainly out here, folks, in California, aside from the whole ordeal of, like, you have to have X amount of affordable housing with this type of a project and a mixed-use development project. It's tough, I think, to try to pry out more dollars and cents from the taxpayers to pay for your ballpark or your stadium or for your venue. And I really hope, though, that something can be done in Oakland. But I believe that this weekend of the A's playing in Vegas has sadly, in a way, opened Pandora's box and is kind of, in a way, I believe, become a bit of a small distraction. Now, the players won't, of course, say that. But I believe now it's going to be more of a thing where maybe you'll be seeing Dave Caval and John Fisher making more trips to Vegas. Now we've heard the rumblings of the potential spots of the Tropicana venue in Vegas. The Fairgrounds maybe could be a spot. I've heard rumblings of the Rio could be a spot. that San Manuel or Yamava was looking at, one of the Inland Empire-based tribes was looking at the Rio site maybe for a ballpark. Summerlin could be an option, but again, you have to wonder about the Aviators and their schedule too. Would it have to be a thing where maybe it could be maybe an ordeal for right now, maybe where you could do double headers, basically. You could have the Ace play in the evening and have the Aviators play in the daytime or vice versa. But again, you have to factor in the weather and a big thing there. So there's a lot of moving parts, folks, a lot of hurdles to jump over here. But I kind of believe, though, that the A's have kind of, in a way, done more damage than they have done good. I'm not saying that I'm not saying that the series with the series with the Reds in Vegas was a bad idea. I know it's about testing the market and stuff like that, though, for baseball. But I also think it does more harm than good, because now you may have people in Oakland saying, oh, great, 3 games in Vegas. Wonderful. We're going to lose our 3rd different franchise in the last 5 to 7 years, and then you may have, some stuff like boycotts of the games and stuff like that. But again, I really hope that they can make something work in Oakland. But I believe right now, in my general, honest, humble opinion, with the Oakland Athletics, from my perspective, all things point to Vegas. But I hope and pray that they can get something to work in Oakland. That ship may have sailed last year, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. But I really hope they can do something there. And again, I just as someone speaking again from someone who has seen a franchise in a big sport like the NFL leave San Diego, I share the empathy, I share all the feelings of those of you who are up in Oakland, who may in fact who are going through losing 2 franchises already, let alone the fact maybe a 3rd team leaving your hometown to go to Las Vegas. I mean, right now, Oakland may be having the biggest rivalry with Las Vegas away from sports, because they have literally pried away, one team with the Raiders, and now maybe prying away a 2nd team in the Oakland Athletics sometime soon. But we'll see, though, folks, how things do in fact go at this stage. We will, folks, get to one more story for our debut program here of Press Row. This comes from another one of our great outlets, from Andrew Buchholz of AwfulAnnouncing.com, and he writes that both UCLA and USC, their exits from the Pac-12 conference may cost the Pac-12 at least $200 million annually in new media rights deal, per a new report released by the LA Times, who have thrown out some notable figures on just what the exits of both the Bruins and Trojans may have meant to the Pac-12 conference. The story reads on AwfulAnnouncing.com that there's still a lot of uncertainty right now about who the Pac-12's new media deal will be with, how much it is for, and if that will be sufficient enough to keep on-the-fence schools inside the Pac-12 conference. But amidst all that, it's also interesting to look back at how we got here. And a new piece from Brady McLaughlin of the LA Times looks at the conference's current media situation and what it might have meant if both USC and UCLA had not announced their plans to leave for the Big Ten Conference ahead of the 2024 season last year. There is a particularly notable section inside the column where the sources make some bold claims about what the Pac-12 TV situation might look like if the Bruins and Trojans, seen above playing each other in 2021, had not left the conference, or at least announced their plans. So part, folks, of this of the article reads this. One person that I spoke with last week, who was plugged into the media rights world through the Pac-12, could have gotten a deal for $500 million if USC and UCLA were still around. Without USC and UCLA, it appears to be a struggle for the commissioner of the conference to negotiate an attractive package for the $300 million or so it would take to stay in the ballpark of the deal for the Big 12's media rights. With the Trojans and Bruins in tow, the Pac-12's deal could have placed the league on an easy 3rd behind both the Big Ten and, of course, the SEC. Adding USC and UCLA made the Big Ten a rumored $250 million extra annually to be distributed among the other 14 programs. The Big Ten and SEC are now so far ahead of the lesser 3 Power 5 conferences that they excluded big football brands other than Notre Dame, of course, are also frothing at the mouth to get their due. The numbers here should be consistent in context. The rumored $250 million extra to be distributed among the other 14 schools for the addition of both SC and UCLA is far from a proven fact. Last July, the additions, or after the additions of both USC and UCLA, but before the Big Ten's media deals were done, Michael McCarthy of Front Office Sports had said that one source estimated extra boost from both the Bruins and Trojans as 10%, and one estimating up to at least 25%, while John Orand of Sports Business Journal estimating at least 15% could be heading back that way. Those pieces both used $1 billion as the baseline annual number before the jump had eclipsed $1 billion. The actual deals were done in August and came out at $1.1 billion. So that is, in fact, a 10% increase and up to $250 million, which would be 25% extra annually. However, there are further benefits for the Big Ten from adding both USC and UCLA beyond those Fox, NBC, and CBS deals, including the value of getting the Big Ten network, which is 61% owned by Fox and 39% by the conference, into the LA television media market. Furthermore, distributed among the other 14 schools does not seem quite right. There have been suggestions that both USC and UCLA will get lower per school distributions initially as new members, but that seems unlikely to last for the full run of the deal. So the extra money here, which is going to be reduced slightly because UCLA is adding travel costs, and also because of the Berkeley tax they must pay out to California, but it's still estimated to be about $65 to $75 million, even in the first year, still being significantly higher than per school numbers of around $34 million they were getting in the Pac-12 under the old contractual deal, or $30 million or so they get under a Pac-12 deal at the current being discussed estimates, will likely be distributed amongst all the 16 Big Ten schools at some point, including the Trojans and Bruins. They'll get some of those rewards that they've brought to the Big Ten in the end. You know, folks, this is the main reason why I think college realignment is a thing that is a thing. And now, again, if you know me very well, I have been extremely vocal that I'm not sure it would ever work out. But I know it comes down to the revenue. But at this rate, though, I'm still a little leery at this rate about how this may in fact work, because of the Pac-12 itself. I remember very well saying on a podcast that at this rate that the Pac-12 was on life support, because them losing both USC and UCLA is a massive, massive blow to take for that conference. And they can, talk about maybe adding San Diego State or Southern Methodist University, or SMU, I should say. But I don't really know, though, what the Pac-12's future will look like at this rate without having these two schools in it after the year is over with. And I really, though, wonder if the Pac-12 survives after this upcoming season because of the fact of them losing the Trojans and the Bruins. So, folks, who really knows about that story, though? But it's very interesting now, because now we're going to be seeing now how this will affect perhaps potential deals for media rights for the Pac-12, because now you have to factor in OU and Texas going into the SEC. You're factoring in USC and UCLA going into the Big Ten, the future of the Pac-12. The Big 12 could be adding more and more schools too. And that more and more money is going to be thrown, though, obviously for media rights, but also I think, though, this will actually help, more so help the juggernaut conferences, and almost in a way, I think, kind of just totally wreak havoc across the entire realm of college athletics, because there's just been so much money being thrown left and right across the board here for media deals. And we'll also see, though, if the Pac-12 tries to go the route of streaming platforms. We've heard about maybe them going to Amazon Prime Video maybe for Pac-12 action. So, again, folks, we'll keep an eye on that, though. But certainly the numbers are, in fact, in favor of the fact that at this rate right now, the Pac-12, I believe, is going to have to do a lot of hard work and a lot of ditch digging, a lot of soul searching probably, too, over the next couple of weeks. For that matter, maybe even after the school year concludes, to see what they really can do, though, to hopefully keep this conference going. Because if they're without USC and UCLA, though, I really felt and still think, though, that conference is really hurting for money right now and hurting for business. So we'll see what they in fact choose to do at this point in time. With that, though, folks, I thank you all so much for joining us here on our debut episode here of Press Row. Again, this was more of a test run program today, but glad to have some viewer commentary from James Scott, and also having some viewers joining us as well here as well today. Richard Anselmo, Brad Kelly, and of course James Scott himself, though. But again, folks, we're going to do our best to come back here every week or so, roughly. I'm going to hopefully be able to have my good man Chris Davis help us out here with this program as well, though. But great to be able to get back on the podcast side of things here. I know it's been a while, folks. I've been on here with Ison, just because of the nature of my work schedule and spending time with my loved ones, family, friends, my girlfriend, of course, as well at this rate. But with that, though, everybody, we will see you folks back here next time. We will do our best to also hopefully tell you more in advance about our next program here for Press Row when we come back for episode 2. And we will also, folks, let you know as well that we will have the archive version of the podcast audio for you as well, put up via Anchor as well here later today. But with that, though, folks, Callan McClurg saying good day, good night, wherever you may be joining us from here, folks, on the Intergalactic Sports and Entertainment Network for our first episode of Press Row. We'll see you folks back here next time. Hopefully next week, we'll get back with you folks here on Ison and back on Press Row, folks. Till next time, good day. Thanks for joining us here, and bye-bye.